All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we will continue our schedule breakdowns. Today, we will be talking about the Tennessee Titans, the last team that I will cover in the AFC South. Last year, they went 6-11, and they've gone through some changes. This is going to be Will Levis's first full year as the starter. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, which was a good move. They also added to the receiving corps. They signed Calvin Ridley. They signed Tyler Boyd. They also brought in Tony Pollard, with Derrick Henry leaving in free agency and joining the Baltimore Ravens. So they're going to look different. And I don't really know what to expect. If Will Levis is good in year two, I mean, I think the Titans, maybe they could be a team that, that comes out of, I don't want to say comes out of nowhere, but maybe a team that surprises people. But I don't know. I feel like for me, I mean, I was going over the schedule last night. I don't really see them, finishing with a great record this year. But let's kind of get into their schedule here. So they start off the year. Now, this is an interesting game right off the bat against the Bears. So you got Will Levis, his first full year as a starter. And then you got Caleb Williams, who there's a lot of hype around him with the Bears. And I think the Bears are going to be a good team. There might, like I said, I think I've said it. Yeah, I've said this. There's going to be struggles early on, I think. But I feel like this team, with the playmakers and the defense, was better last year. I feel like this team is going to be good and maybe could make the playoffs. So, I mean, I think the Titans could win this game. I think I leaned towards the Bears winning. So I think the Titans will start off 0-1. But I think this is a game they could win. Week 2 against the Jets. I mean, we don't know what to expect out of Aaron Rodgers coming off of the Achilles. I think I also gave the Jets the win here. But it is at home. So I think this is another game that the Titans could win. But I'd probably lean more towards not, because I think the Jets are going to be really good this year. Then it doesn't get any easier against the Packers. Again, the Packers, they dropped a game early on against the Falcons where they had the game, and then they ended up, the Falcons ended up coming back in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that, the Titans have no shot in this game either, but, again, I would lean towards the Packers here. So, not off to a good start for the Titans. Then they play the Dolphins early on in the season. Now, if you remember last year, they were down by a couple of scores, and then they ended up coming back and winning the game, which I was very surprised by that. Tyreek Hill got hurt in the game last year, but I don't know. I still would take the Dolphins here. So, yeah, right now I got the Titans starting off 0-4. Then they take on the Colts. Now, I feel like they could split with the Colts. I think they'll split with the Colts. I think they'll split with the Jags. So there's where I see a couple wins. I mean, they're at home here. So maybe they get the win here and then they lose in Indy. So I'll give them a win against the Colts, and like I said, a win against the Jags. Then against the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, we got to see how Josh Allen is with this new receiving core. Bills made a lot of changes. I would still probably lean towards the Bills. So, yeah, it's not going great so far for the Titans. And then, again, doesn't get any easier. You take on the Lions in Detroit. I think that's probably a loss. They're home against the Patriots. I think that's a game they could definitely win. So I'd probably lean towards giving them a win there. The Chargers, again, a team, similar to the Bills, changes at the receiving core. I mean, the Chargers are at home. I mean, I'd give the Titans a chance here, but I'd probably lean towards the Chargers. And then they take on the Vikings in Week 11. I mean, we'll see how Sam Darnold plays. I mean, we'll see. Maybe J.J. McCarthy's playing at this point. But you know what? I think the Titans could win this game, being at home. So I'd maybe, they get the win there, possibly. Then again, against the Texans, I feel like the Texans... Now... Maybe the Texans have the division locked up by Week 18, and they rest their starters, and the Titans, can maybe take advantage of that and win the game when they're at home. against the Texans, but maybe the Texans need that game and they play their starters. So, but I'll probably just say that the Texans will sweep them. And then the Commanders game could be interesting because you got Jayden Daniels, rookie quarterback, Will Levis, his first full year. So he's going to be going up against the number 1 and number 2 overall picks this year. And also maybe Drake May as well. He could be going up against Drake May. Could be going up against J.J. McCarthy. So, that game I feel like could go either way. So maybe that's a win. And then we get to the end of the season. They play all their divisional opponents and they play the Bengals. So, like I said, I think they'll split with the Jags against the Bengals. They did beat the Bengals last year, but I think it's going to be different. I think the Bengals, they'll go in there, and I think we'll get the win. And then, like I said, split against the Colts, split against the Jags, and then maybe, depending on if the Texans rest their starters in Week 18, if they don't have to play them, if they're pretty much set where they are, then maybe the Titans get a win there. So, let's see. So, I got their 3 divisional, splitting with the Jags and the Colts. Maybe winning against the Commanders, I think, could be a win. Vikings could be a win. The Bears could be a win. Possibly the Patriots. So I would say like maybe 6 or 7 wins. I think it's gonna be tough. They got some tough games on their schedule here. But yeah, and that's what they finished with last year. They went 6-11. Now they got a rookie head coach. We'll see. But if they do finish with that kind of record, but Will Levis still has a good year, then you go from there. But if Will Levis is not good, then they got an issue on their hands. But we'll see. I think around 6 or 7 wins. It is going to be tough though. I mean, early on in the season, you're playing the Bears at Soldier Field. But again, I mean that's a game they could win. The Jets, I think the Jets are going to be really good. So that's going to be a tough game. The Packers, I think, are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Then you take on the Dolphins early on in the year, which I think late in the season, guys are all banged up, and Tyreek Hill got hurt in the game. In Week 4, it's going to be a different kind of game. So, but I think if the Titans are going to want to have a good year, it's going to come down to the quarterback. And is Tony Pollard going to be the Tony Pollard from 2022? Another year removed from the injury that he had in the playoffs against the Niners a couple years ago. Because if you can get that Tony Pollard pair him with Tajay Spears, that could be a nice duo there. And the receiving core, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good receiving core, but I mean, it's if this was like 2018, this would be one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. But Ridley, I think he's 30 now. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is 31. Tyler Boyd is right around there too. I think he's 29. But I think these guys are still, good. It's just, it's not like if they had this receiving core back in, 2018 when D-Hop was one of the best receivers in the NFL, and, Ridley was a young player. But we'll see. I think they'll still be good. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was okay for the Titans last year. He had the 3 touchdowns in Will Levis's debut. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how the Titans do, but I still look at them as that last place team. So I had the Texans going 12-5, the Colts 9-8, Jags 8-9, and then the Titans around 6-7 wins. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, against the Jets, you're at home. The Packers, you're at home. The Bengals, you're at home. So, and you do get, each of your divisional opponents, you get a home game there. But, at Detroit's going to be tough, in Miami against that offense, in Buffalo. I mean, the Chargers, we'll see how they are. But I think with Harbaugh, they might be a little bit of a problem. And you got Justin Herbert coming back healthy. So, and I think with Harbaugh, the defense is going to, improve. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I mean, that's really my thoughts on their schedule. Let me know what you guys think, though. How many games do you think the Titans will win in 2024? I think around 6-7 wins. I think that's fair. I mean, that's what they finished with last year's 6 wins. But that is going to be a disappointment, though, if that ends up happening. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they end up, being better than that. But I think it really all comes down to the growth of their young quarterback. So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about some comments made by Greg Olson, on the 49ers, and who has the best chance to challenge the 49ers for the NFC in 2024. And I know that's something that we've talked about, but I just wanted to get into what Greg Olson had to say. So that is what we will discuss when we come back from break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.